Come on in, grab a seat. Let's just treat our time together today like a session, okay? A safe, totally judgment-free space to unpack something that, honestly, almost all of us struggle with. We're diving right into the psychological architecture of sentimentality. So, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by all those little things you just cannot seem to part with, take a deep breath. You are exactly in the right place. We're gonna look at why we hold on to stuff, and I promise you, it is absolutely not because you're just disorganized.
Let's start with a scenario I hear about in my practice literally all the time. Picture this. You're standing over the trash can. In your hand, you've got, a movie ticket from 2012, or maybe a dried up pen from some hotel, or a broken keychain from a friend you haven't seen in a decade. Logically, the rational part of your brain knows it's trash, but the second you move your arm to drop it in the bin, boom, you feel this sudden sharp pull in your chest. It's this very real, very physical feeling that you aren't just throwing away a piece of paper. Listen, I want to deeply validate that for you right now. That hesitation, it's completely normal. You aren't just messy. You're having a profound psychological response.
Okay, let's dive into this. To understand that sharp pull in your chest, we have to look at what your stuff actually represents to your mind. Your brain has brilliantly turned these seemingly useless little objects into external hard drives for your identity. It's wild, right? So when you try to throw that item away, hitting delete feels like losing a literal piece of yourself. Your brain is using these physical, tactile things to store memories that it is absolutely terrified to forget. It's honestly just a survival mechanism for your personal history.
In the clinical world, we talk about something called the endowment effect. Simply put, this just means we overvalue an object just because it belongs to us. But let's take that a step further into your emotional landscape. We often use this effect to fill a gap left by absence. When we keep these objects, we aren't hoarding clutter. No, we're tethering ourselves to a history or a relationship or a feeling that maybe wasn't fully echoed back to us in our actual lives. If you felt unseen during a specific era of your life, well, the physical object from that time becomes your proof. Proof that you existed, that you mattered, and that your experience was real.
Now, let's do a little psychoeducation, because there's a huge contrast between how we assume memory works and the reality of our nervous system. A lot of us think of our brains like this highly organized filing cabinet, right? Where information gets stored based on how useful it is for, say, doing our taxes or our jobs. But actually, scratch that. The reality is completely different. Your brain is way more like a selective curator. It doesn't file things based on practical utility. It curates based on how much your nervous system cared in the exact moment you encountered that object. Let me illustrate this quirky prioritization with a number. 14. It takes about 14 seconds to forget where you just set down your car keys. Why? Well, because putting your keys down is a mundane, totally repetitive task. Your nervous system is bored. It isn't engaged. But I bet you'll always remember that an octopus has 3 hearts. Why? Because when you first learned that, it sparked this moment of deep curiosity. It completely broke the pattern. When an object is tied to a moment like that, what we call a mastery experience, your hippocampus tags it and makes it permanent. Your nervous system cared, so the memory stays.
And that brings us to a massive concept in our work today: environmental mastery. This is the psychological need to control our physical surroundings in a way that actively supports our internal well-being. So those hyper-organized shelves or the little clusters of mementos on your desk, they aren't just decorations. They are actually a highly sophisticated form of emotional insurance. By arranging them, you're actively crafting an environment that your subconscious knows it can rely on.
Let's do some cognitive reframing here. I really want you to stop looking at these items as useless. Literally every object in your space, no matter how small or random, has the potential to act as a safety signal for your subconscious. For someone who feels the world very intensely, visual order and familiar items are essential tools. They regulate the nervous system and they physically lower your cortisol levels, that's your stress hormone. When you look at that smooth stone you picked up on a random walk, your brain isn't seeing trash. It's seeing a predictable outcome in a highly unpredictable world. It's anchoring you.
And this brilliantly illustrates where this deep need for control usually comes from. Many of us grew up in unpredictable childhood environments. Maybe things felt incredibly unstable. Maybe you had to constantly read the room just to stay out of trouble, or just to stay safe. Or perhaps your emotional needs were just ignored. To survive that, you adapted. You became extraordinarily attuned to your physical environment. So now, as an adult, you seek visual order. You find this strange comfort in your things because they represent the stability you simply didn't have back then. Every single saved memento is a silent promise to your younger self that this space is safe and that finally, you are the one holding the remote control to your own life.
So what actually happens when we try to let go? Well, we run face first into what psychologists call fictional grief. When you hold on to something you no longer use, you're often just protecting yourself from the deep-seated fear of being forgotten. You feel a genuine sense of loss when a story or a chapter of your life ends. By keeping the object, you're essentially saying, "This moment mattered." Because you're actively rewriting your inner story through your stuff, letting go feels dangerously close to dismantling your own identity. I really need you to hear this. You aren't broken for wanting to stay connected to your past. You just have a beautiful mind that takes the question of, "Who am I?" very, very seriously.
So how do we actually move forward? Here's a practical clinical intervention you can use the next time you're trying to clear your space. Step 1. Recognize the fictional grief. Just acknowledge that you're mourning the end of a chapter, not just throwing away a broken keychain. Let yourself feel it. Step 2. Validate the object. Literally say out loud, "Thank you for being a safety signal when I needed one, but I am safe now." And hey, if you have what I call hobby graveyards, drawers full of knitting supplies or painting gear you never touch, give yourself some grace. You are just exploring who you could be. Finally, step 3. Keep only what builds a sanctuary, not a cage. You aren't failing at being a minimalist, you're succeeding at finding depth. But the ultimate goal is to intentionally design a space that frees you, rather than one that traps you in the past.
As we wrap up our session today, I want to leave you with a quick journaling prompt. Think about that one object in your home that you logically know you don't need, but absolutely unequivocally cannot part with. Ask yourself, what is it? And more importantly, what story is your brain trying to protect by keeping it? Just sit with that question. By exploring these supposedly useless fragments, we realize our habits aren't flaws to be fixed, but vital parts of a really complex human architecture. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer today. Take care of yourself, give yourself a ton of grace as you curate your space, and remember, it is wonderfully okay to be the person who notices the light catching on small, beautiful things.